Ago tevach Rabboisai. Rabboisai, here we go. We are mamish on today's daf Peites. We're holding 2 lines down. Chatzi lug shemen letoida. We learned in the Mishnah that there's a half a lug of oil for the 30 breads of the toida that are matzah. 10 of them are chametz. Tanya Rebbe Kiva Omer, Matamad Omer, Bashemen Shtei Pa'amim. It says in the pasuk, Bashemen Shtei Pa'amim. In fact, we'll see the pasuk has 3 times. Bashemen. So we're looking at the first 2 times. Why does the pasuk say the word Bashemen twice? If it would only say it once, so you see, I would say, just like every other mincha gets a full lug of oil, so to the toida gets a full lug. Why a half lug? Bashemen or Bashemen, have a ribuy achar ribuy. So we have a klal, we have a rule in the Torah. When there's 2 positives make a negative. A ribuy achar ribuy, when it comes to include twice, it comes to be marbel to, a ribuy achar ribuy el lamayit. The rule is that if it says the word twice, it comes to include twice, it's actually a miyut. So we take it down 1 step. We go from a full lug, which a typical mincha gets, take it down to half. Ask the Gemara, ribuy achar ribuy, chad ribuy. Why are you telling me it's 2 ribuyim? We need the first one, just tell me that there's oil. No, so the Gemara, it's a long lashon, but the point is simple. If it wouldn't have said the first one at all, automatically I could assume that every mincha up until now gets a full lug of oil. So to the toida gets a full lug. I don't need the first shemen to tell me that you get a lug shemen, because that's obvious. Every mincha gets a lug. So why does it say bashemen twice? It must be the idea of ribuy achar ribuy, and the double positive is a negative. Look, it takes it down to have a look. I would think now the matzah part we're going to ignore. I mean the chametz part we're going to ignore for now. The 10 on the right, forget about. We're talking about the 3 to the left: the revucha, the matzah, and the rikikim. The chalois, the rikikim, and the revucha. I have a half a lug, so perhaps divide the half into thirds. Each one, the revucha gets a third, the chalis gets a third, the rikikim get a third. Keshu oimer bashamen. And now we're going to discuss the final word bashamen at the end of the pasuk. Why does it say bashamen again? B'revicha. She'ein tamud loymar. It doesn't need to be said at all. Why? Because it says mufurish in this pasuk, al machavas bashemen teyosem murbeches tevieno. It says that there's oil bashemen in a murbeches. So I don't need the pasuk to tell me again, right over here, that the murbeches all the way at the end of the pasuk gets oil. I already have a pasuk. Shein tamad loymer. I'm just explaining why these 3 words. Shein tamad loymer. Ribo shemen l'revicha. Torah is saying, no, I already said it once, you're right, but I'm saying it again to tell you that the revucha, the 3 types, we have the rikikin, the chalas, and the revucha gets more than the other 2. Okay, so how do you do it? You take a half a lug of the oil, that's the amount that we discussed already, it should be a half. And what do you do to that half? You divide it in half, each one is a quarter of a lug. The 2 types, the chalos and the rikikin, get a quarter of a lug. In other words, they both, the rikikin, they get an eighth and an eighth. The chalis get an eighth and the rikikin get an eighth, which is a half of each one is, you take the chatzi, you divide it into quarters. So it's a half of a quarter, is an eighth. And the other one, the revicha, gets okay. What did I just say? Eighth? half, quarter. Yeah, it gets a quarter. It gets a quarter and the other one gets an eighth. Yeah. Givaldik. So the Revicha gets a quarter and the Chalois gets an eighth and the Rikikin gets an eighth. Omar Loi Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah. Akiva calls him by his name. Akiva. It doesn't matter that you're making these drushes bashemen twice, three times. I can't. I'm not being mikabel. Elochatzi lug shemen letoido. You should know it's halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Moshe Rabbeinu received this from the Rebbeinu Shleilam. It's not a pasuk in the Torah. Not only that, there's two other things. Chatzi lug shemen letoido. The fact that there's a chatzi lug that goes to the Torah is halacha l'Moshe Sinai, not because there's an extra shemen. Or revius shemen lenazir, and the fact that a nazir gets a revius of a lug. Ve'achader soyoyim shebein nida lenida halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Midday raisa, a woman who sees dam, she becomes a nida for 7 days. After the 7 days, doesn't matter if she sees 2 days, 3 days, 5 days. After the 7 days, she goes to the mikvah, she's toivel and star. The 11 days after that time, Halacha l'Moshe Sinai tells us that these are the days of Ziva. And Ziva is a different type of dam. It can become a Zavagtana or a Zavagdoila. If she sees 3 times, then she's a Zavagdoila, she has to bring Karba Chulu. But as you can see here in the chart, 4, 5, 6, these are days, let's say, it's just an example, days 4, 5, 6, then she becomes a Zavgdaila, Zavgtana. Now, today, B'nai Yisrael accepted upon themselves that they, no matter what, let me just go back a second. If it's a Zavgtana, she's Shemeres Yom Keneged Yom, so she just has to keep 1 clean day. But if she's a Zavgdaila, then she has to keep 7 days of Tahara and then goes to the mikvah. So today, there's no such thing as Ziva days and Nida days. They just made them all one to be Machmer, because it becomes very complicated to figure out did she see Dam in the Ziva day? Did she see Dam in the Nida day? So they just said, everything, we're going to be Machmer. They have to keep 7 days of Tahara. This idea that there's 11 days of Ziva, that's halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Okay, so Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah argues on Rebbe Kiva, and he says it's not a pasuk. This that a toida gets a half a lug of oil, not a full lug, that's halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Balug hayamoided. So it says in the Mishnah that balug hayamoided, basically they hold, this man Omar holds, that even Ubalug hayamoided l'kol Menachos. You have a machloikis here, whether or not a mincha that's a huge mincha of 60 isarin of flour instead of 1 isarin, 60 isarin, do you add 60 lug of oil or 1 lug of oil for all 60? When a person is a Mitzayra, he has tzaras, the Kohen says you have an infliction of tzaras. If he can't afford the typical karbanas of a wealthy person who has to bring a asham, a oil, and a chatos, so the Torah is lenient with him and says you could bring a mincha instead. It says these 3 words, isarin, for 1 isarin, balul v'lug. Limed al isarin sheton lug. So Chacham say, each and every isarin requires 1 lug. They argue and they say, Rebbe Nechami and Rebbe Elazar say that even 60 Yisroinos only requires 1 lug of oil shenemar, and they have a different pasuk. LeMincha v'lo shamen. For the entire mincha, 1 lug shemen. Now they are going to have to explain what do we do with the first pasuk, Isarim balul lug, that for every Isarim there's 1 lug. And the Tanakama, the Chacham, are going to have to explain what do we do with this pasuk, LeMincha v'lo shamen. How does it fit in that no matter how large the mincha is, loig shaman, you get one log shaman. Says the Gemara, which seems like every Yisar needs a log. My Abdullah, what do they do with it? Ahu legufei. This is in a Mitzayra, a poor person's Mitzayra, to teach us the Kahabar Achmana Leisi Chad Yisarin. Tells us you should bring one Yisarin of flour. V'idach, the Gufei Leitzarach. I don't need a pasuk to tell me that. Midigal Rachmana Gavim Mitzayra Ashir. Shlosh Karbanis and Shlosh Yisraelis. By a regular Mitzayra, he has to bring the Chat Yisrael and Asham, and he has to bring 3 Yisraelis. You see? You can even see he's holding on to the flour. So since he has flour, how much? 3 Yisraelis. So by the poor Mitzayra, he brings 1 carbon, therefore he brings 1 Yisarin. If you bring 3 carbonas like the regular Mitzayra, you bring 3 measurements of flour, 3 Yisraelis of flour. If you bring 1 carbon, so you bring 1 measurement. You don't get out of it completely. The Torah had Rachmana says, oh, you're poor, you don't have to bring all the korbanos. Perhaps you shouldn't have to bring flour at all. There's no such thing. Why? Everything that the rich person has to bring, the poor person has to bring in another form. But to get out of it completely, that we don't find. Now we have to go in the reverse. What are Rabbanan going to do with Rebbe Eliezer's pasuk that says lemincha v'loig shamin, that for an entire mincha, even 60 Yisraelim, all you need is 1 leg. Any person who decides to give an adava of a mincha, he has to give a minimum of something that requires 1 lug of oil, which means 1 isar. That is the minimum. So I need a pasuk to tell me that if you're wanting to give HaKadosh Baruch Hu a gift, a nedava of a mincha, don't bring a half a yisarin. You need a full yisarin, which requires 1 lug. Ve'idach, we could learn from this pasuk both things, that it has to be a minimum as well as his original drasha. Shisha lapar arba la'ayil shlosh lekeves. Minala. So if you look at the pasuk, very, very simple. Look what it says over in the pasuk. The bull gets a half a hin. Ushlish is a hin la'ayil. These are famous psukim. We say in Rosh Chodesh. A third of a hin for the ram, the 2-year-old sheep. Revi is a hin, and a quarter of a hin is for the sheep. Now, if I tell you that a hin is 12 lug, so it's very easy. Math is very easy with 12. Half of 12 is 6. A third of 12 is 4. A quarter of 12 is 3. So therefore, when I say chatzi ahin yela par, a half of 12 is 6 lug for the par. Ushlish is ahin, the Torah tells us a third of a hin, a third of 12 for the ayil, which would mean 4. Urevi is ahin, a quarter of 12 lugim for the keves, means 3. Givaldiks, I got it all. Says the Gemara D'chsiv. B'niskeim chatzihin yela par, ushlish ahin loyal, revi ahin lekeves yoyil. Hin, you should know, a hin is treisar lugi havin. A hin is 12 lug. D'chsiv shemen zayis hin. Uchsiv shemen mishras kodesh yeh ze lili dorisechem. Ze begematria treisar havin. Since it says the word ze is 12. Shloishom echzel lemenorah. Chatzi log l'kol ner. There's 3.5 log for the menorah every day. That means each cup gets a half a log per candle, per light. How do I know that this is what the menorah gets? The Tanur Rabbanan. May erev ad boiker. It says in the pasuk that you should light the menorah from evening to the morning. Give it enough oil that it could light from the evening to the morning. And how much is that? Chatzi lug. Dovar acher, another pshat. Meyerev at boiker, ein lucha avoida sheksher meyerev at boiker, elo zu bilvad. There is no avoid in the Beis Hamikdash that went from the evening to the morning. What else goes from the evening? Like lechatchila, you should start in the evening and it goes all the way to the morning. Mele, that must be the menorah. It's the lighting of the menorah. Veshiru, says the Gemara, and the Chacham said it takes about a half a lug from morning to evening, even in the longest evenings of the night, even if the night is 16 hours, this is the amount of oil that we need. Ikidamri, bilamalo lematashiru. How did they get to the amount? Rebbeinu Shalom didn't tell them the exact amount. So they started from the hin. They started from the largest amount, and they worked their way down all the way till they got to, they saw it was too much. They got to the chatzi lug. They started with a revius of a lug until they got to the half a lug. The man that says they went from the bottom to the top. The Rebbeinu Shalom has rachmanas on Klal Yisrael's money, even if it's the Beis Hamikdash's money, even though it's not that much. It's just a one-time deal to figure out how much oil we need to burn in the longest night of the year. So you start out from the lowest one. It burns out in the middle of the night. Okay, so the next night you give more. Next night you give more. But you're not wasting any oil. Whereas if you were to start with the full hin, and then you realize you don't need a full hin, so now you have to toss it. You have to start over again. If we start from the top to the bottom, when there's the Beis Hamikdash where the walls are covered in gold and the kelim are gold, you don't act like a pauper. Says the Mishnah, we have a kafa here. Let's do the Mishnah first. Ma'arvim nischei parim b'niskei elim. I think you did a little. Oh, if you look on the left, the par and the aisle have the same for every 3 isarin of flour. There's 6 lug shemen. In other words, 2 to 1. The ratio, same ratio. Oh, I got the word. The ratio is 2 to 1. If you look at the ram all the way on the left, 4 lug shemen for 2 isarin of silas. So it's 2 to 1 for every 1 isarin of flour. There's 2 lug of shemen. So the ratio of the ram and the bull are identical. Therefore, if you mix them up, we're going to talk about exactly when, but if they get mixed up, now look at the word, ma'arvim nischei parim b'niskei elim. It seems like almost from the lashon, if I were to ask you, does it mean after the fact or before the fact? Is it l'chatchila? I could if I feel like it, or it means if you already did it, it's okay. Seems like from reading it, without any depth over here, it seems like you could do it if you feel like it. It's not after the fact. It's not a b'di'evet, it's the l'chatchila. You have to get those words straight. L'chatchila means go ahead and you do it. There's nothing stopping you and you're not doing anything wrong. B'di'evet means you shouldn't do it. If you did it after the fact, it's okay. So again, the 2 guys on the left, they are a 2 to 1 ratio. But a keves, a sheep, is a 3 to 1 ratio. You see, he has 3. If I were Yoshi, I would have done, maybe not. I see why you did it like that. Okay, you see, it has 3 lug for every isarin of flour. So the ratio is different. Therefore, you cannot mix a sheep with a cow. You can't mix a sheep with a ram. Nischei kvasim b'niskei kvasim. You could mix 2 sheep together, because they're both 3 lug of oil to 1 lug. So you're not going to have any carbon that's missing oil or has too much oil. It's exact. The ratio is the same. Shel yachad b'shel tzibur, I can mix that of an individual and the community together. Daf peites on beis. Shel yoim b'shel emesh. Let's say I want to bring the nesachim 5 days later. I could do so. I brought my carbon on a Sunday. I could bring my nesachim on a Tuesday, and they mix. I cannot mix a guy on the right, a sheep on the right, with a bull on the left, or with the ram on the left. Why? because the ratio is different. So it'll come out that if I do mix it, then the sheep on the right is going to have too little oil for his mincha, and the bull on the left is going to have too much oil, and that's both of those are a problem. Vimbalalon. Now, pay attention. This is the third part of the Mishnah. I skipped the second by mistake, but I didn't show you. On top line, if we go back one line, that's part 2 of the Mishnah. It's called Ein Ma'arvim part. And now we're doing part 3 of the Mishnah. V'im Balalan, we'll call it V'im Balalan, part 3. You know what, let me just show you this right after. You see, part 1 is Ma'arvin, part 2 is Ein Ma'arvin, and part 3 that we're reading right now is Balalan. Part 2 is the line right above it. Ein Ma'arvin, you're not permitted to mix the nesachim of a sheep with the nesachim of a bull. That's simple enough. Ein Ma'arvin. V'im Balalan, and if you did, Elu b'fnei atzman, Elu b'fnei atzman, that's part 3. We're going to go away from this for now. Just wanted to introduce you to it so it's not too confusing. Let's say you mixed the oil and the 3 lug of oil of, if I mixed the guy on the right all by itself, 3 lug of oil with 1 isarn of flour, all by itself, mixed it up, it's givaldik. So we got everything you needed. And I mixed the bull, it's 3 isarn of silas with 6 lug of shemen, mixed it all up. And only after that it got together, then it's kosher. But if they got mixed, the sheep and the cow got mixed beforehand, just in the raw form of oil by itself and flour by itself, possible, then it's possible. Next halacha, and we're not going to be dealing with this that much. Today, the sheep that comes to the oimer, Rabbi we're in Sfiras HaOmer. Don't forget to say Sfiras HaOmer. Even though that the mincha that comes to the oimer is 2 esroinim, double than usual. So I think if it's 2 esroinim, how much oil does it need? 6 log. Look, you have the sheep over here. 1 isarn of silas, the guy all the way on the right, brings 3 log of oil. So if it's 2 esroinim, it should be 6. No, you don't have to double it up. Okay, Atkan Hakafa base. Says the Gemara. Now we have a 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 line sugya. Viraminu. Ask the Gemara. Viraminu. How could you tell me that you're allowed to take the oil and the flour of a bull and mix it with the oil and the flour of a ram because it has the same ratio? We learned that even viktiroi shloyarev chalom b'chalavim, you can't even take the emurim of one and mix them with the emurim of the other and put them together. You want to save time going up the ramp to the mizbeach. So throw this carbon. No, each carbon is by itself. So each carbon is by itself. So too, every mincha should be by itself. Why are you mixing the oils of 2 different menachos and the flour of 2 different menachos? Rabbi Yochanan is saying in part 1 of the Mishnah that the Mishnah says ma'arvin, which I would have read, you would have read. Ma'arvin means go ahead and do it. You can mix the bull and the ram. No. You shouldn't. If you did it, it was by mistake, whatever, then it's okay. So I put on top of number 1, the first part of the Mishnah, b'di'evet. It's not l'chatchila. It's only after the fact. Okay. The problem is, let's just speak it out. The problem is, how does it fit with the rest of the Mishnah? If the rest of the Mishnah, if let's say number 2 is b'di'evet, then number 1 must be l'chatchila because we go in order. You start off from best to worst. You start off, this is okay, but this is not okay. If number 2 is a b'di'evet, then number 1 must be al-chatchila. Let's see inside. That's number 2. The second part of the Mishnah says you shouldn't mix the sheep with the, you cannot mix sheep with bulls and rams, right? The guy on the right side, let's show it again. Second part of the mission is you can't mix the right and the left. The sheep on the right, he has a different ratio of oil than the ram on the left has, and the bull on the left has a different ratio. So if so, this is the kasha. Oh, over there it says, and even b'di'eved not. Okay, so number 2 became b'di'eved no. But the problem is, right? So it seems like part 2 of the Mishnah, Ema Arvin, is even after the fact no good. If you mixed the sheep with the bull, no good even after the fact. The problem is, part 3 says that if you mix them after they were mixed by itself, each one by themselves were mixed, and then you mix the 2 of them together, it's kosher. The mechlal the reisha, over here reisha does not mean number 1, over here reisha means the one right before it, number 2. Mechlal the reisha lechatchila kamar. Oh boy. If number 3 is b'di'eved, and number 3 is worse, is worse than number 2, so that now we have to change number 2 to be lechatchila. And if number 2 is lechatchila, then number 1 is also lechatchila. I should have done another one right over here, where I should have shown that number 3 is b'di'eved, but number 2 is lechatchila. And if number 2 is lechatchila, then the beginning of the Mishnah, because it goes in order, it goes from best to worst. And if number 2 is great, it's the perfect, it's lechatchila, then number 1 has to be lechatchila. So bottom line is, if number 1 is lechatchila, so we have a problem. We just said that you're not allowed to mix emurim, you're not allowed to mix chalavim together. So if you're not allowed to mix chalavim together, how come you can mix this the flour and the oil together? Rabbi Yochanan said that it's only b'di'eved, it's after the fact. We just proved that number 1 cannot be after the fact. Number 1 has to be lechatchila. The bottom line is, says Abaya, we're going to change pshat in the Mishnah. Until now we thought the Mishnah is talking about mixing oil and flour together. And now we have a problem to say that it's a lechatchila because we have a brayso that says you're not allowed to mix things together. Oh, we're not talking about the oil and the flour, we're talking about wine. When? So I just added the word yain on number 1, ma'arvin, yain. When? In the Sarif Salta B'Shamnam. If you're not supposed to mix the oil and the flour together, the chatchila, but let's say, why? Because that we learned Viktira, you're not supposed to. But let's say you did. Let's say it happened. So if the oil and the flour are mixed, then you're permitted to mix the wine. Now here's the problem. It seems like you have to come onto a step that you mix the oil and the flour, then you're allowed to do the wine. What about if you didn't mix the oil and the you're not allowed to mix the wine? You can't mix wine. You can't mix the sheep and the cow, the sheep and the bull, those 2 things, right? The one on the right, the one on the left, you can't mix them. What are you not mixing? The oil and the flour. You could take the wine of the sheep and the wine of a bull and mix it. Let's say you don't want to go up to the mizbech. It's too heavy. You don't want to do all these strips. You go up to the mizbech once, and then you have a little bit of wine from a bull, a little bit of wine from a sheep. The ratios are different when it comes to the oil and the flour, but not the wine. I don't care. So I'll take it says over here, you can mix the wine of a keves and a par. Okay, so therefore I got to go away from what we wrote on number 1 that we're talking about mixing of the wine. What is the pshat now? Talking about something else. And then we're done with the sugi. It's only 3 lines. When you already put the oil and the flour on the mizbeach, then I could go ahead and mix the wines. Why? I'm not concerned that you might go mix oil and flour. That's our big concern, because if you mix oil and wine and flour together, that's you're over in the Isra Viktiru. So once it's on the mizbeach, it's already burned. I'm not concerned. So if I'm not concerned, I could bring the wine. So number 1 is ma'arvin. I'm permitted to bring the wine, to mix wines, mix 2 types of wines from a sheep and a bull, when there's no concern about the oil and the flour, because the oil and flour are already on the mizbeach. But when the oil and the flour are not on the mizbeach, depends. If they already got mixed in, you already mixed it up, then you could go and mix the wine. Even l'chatchila, you could go and mix the bull and the sheep's wine. But if their oil and the flour are not mixed, then you shouldn't mix the wines. Why? Because then you might get mixed up, and you might be ma'arev. You might mix the flour and the oil, which that is the rice of iktir. Okay, so that's so good. So now it's super easy. The sheep that comes together with the omer, said it has double the amount of flour, but not double the amount of oil. It comes with double the amount of flour. 2 Israelim. Teaches us that the sheep that comes with the omer, it has a double mincha. Maybe you should bring double the amount of wine. Talmud loymar, like a full hin. Talmud loymar v'nisko yayin revius ahin. Sorry, a half hin. So the Torah says no, you should only bring a revius. V'nisko revius ahin. Yachol loyeh yenoi kafel. Okay, I understand why the wine is not double, because you don't mix wine together with the flour. But the ratio just changed. If it's 3 lug for 1 isarin, it should be 6 lug of oil for 2 isarim. Why should it remain 3 lug of oil for 2 isarim? Something's wrong. The wine is a revius, and so is the oil a revius. All the nesachim. My Talmuda, it says niskay, referring to wine, not referring to oil. Why would you say it includes oil also? Because in fact, it doesn't say with a vav, it says with a hey. V'karina v'niskay, but we read it, it's kriksiv. It's written one way, it's read another way. And we read it, v'niskay his. Okay, it's that. Niska the mincha, the oil, the nesachim of the mincha, meaning the oil, can niska the yayin, are like the nesachim of the wine. Ma yayin revius, avshem nam revius. Because the Torah switched from a hey to a vav, to teach us that oil is like the wine, and both of them are only revius, not a half a hit. Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Asham Tzayro, Asham Tzayro sheshachta shloi l'shmoi ton nesachim. Says Rabbi Yochanan, the Mitzayro. Here, going back to this Mitzayro. What happens when you shech the asham of a Mitzayra, thinking to yourself that it's a shlamim? So that's called loy l'shma. But as we learned in the first Mishnah of Masechet Zvachim, you continue performing the avodah. You don't throw it out into the garbage unless it's a chatos or a carbon pesach. Those are the 2 that if you messed up on the lishma, you thought there were another carbon, you throw it out. But he says it's not good enough just to continue. You got to continue, pretend that it's an asham Mitzayra. To nesachim. You have to give it to the nesachim. Like a regular asham wouldn't require nesachim. But since this is an asham of a Mitzayra, and the asham of a Mitzayra comes with wine and flour, so you have to continue that. Here, you see, the guy's holding wine and flour, oil and flour. Says the Gemara, Shemiyato Omer came Pesalto. Otherwise, if you don't bring the nesachim as necessary, you don't bring the flour and the oil, make it possible. I don't understand something. If so, let's take this rule and apply it somewhere else. The same thing would apply. Let's say you're bringing a carbon together with the oimer, and you thought to yourself, it's not a oimer, it's a oila, it's a shlamim, teimen chazik fula. You should continue doing it, but you should bring two Yisraelim. We just established from the pasuk that the oimer gets double the amount of flour. So if you thought to yourself it's a shlamim, continue on with it, but bring double the amount of flour. But why? It's not an oimer. Continue doing it, otherwise it's going to be possible. And another thing, every day we bring a tamid, a oila in the morning, and oila in the afternoon. So you bring the one in the morning, you didn't have intent that it's a tamid. You thought it's a shlamim or anything else, a taida, you should have to bring, every morning, they, together with the tamid, they would bring wood from the lishka sa'itzim. But not this, not these giant pieces, two pieces, two gzirim. This I just stole from the Wormy sugya, but you understand the pshat. You have to bring wood, so continue doing what you have to do, bring wood. If you don't say this, you make it possible. And again, and if you bring the tamid in the afternoon, you didn't have the right intent. You should have to be required to bring two pieces of wood, but with two kohanim, not with one like in the morning. Because if you don't say that, you're right that you had the wrong kavana. And if you have the wrong kavana, the Mishnah says just continue doing the avodah, and it's kosher for something else. But over here, according to what Rabbi Yochanan says, that as Shamat Tzorah you have to continue doing like in a Shamat Tzorah by bringing the oil and the flour. So by the time you have to bring the two pieces of wood, and if you don't, you make it possible. Says Gemara Yenachanami, you're right. You do have to continue doing it as is and not change anything about it, and bring the wood with two kohen and with one kohen. Elomar Bai. And the reason why we're talking about Hashem Tzorah, Rabbi Yochanan grabbed one example out of the four examples. Rav Abba, or whatever the gear says, Omar Bishlam Anach Oilisninu. When it comes to a carbon tamid, so it's not going to be a tamid, it will be an oil, it will be something else. Daf tzadik. Iloi chazu loilas chayva karvei loilas nadava. Okay, if it doesn't work out for the chayva, so be a regular oil for nadava, as if somebody brought a nadava. It's not for the carbon tamid, it's for nadava, but they have the same name. One is oil, the other is oil. Elahacha by the Shamet Tzorah, that's why Rabbi Yochanan talks about it. Iloi mukmis le b'milsei. If you don't do exactly the way the Hashem Tzorah is, meaning with the flour and the oil, Hashem nadava miyika. There's no such thing as bringing in Hashem nadava. Says the Gemara, Tanya gave us the Rabbi Yochanan. We have a right to Rabbi Yochanan. If you have a Asham Mitzvah, this is what's Rabbi Yochanan's halacha, that if you bring a Asham Mitzvah, but you don't have the right intent that it's a Asham for a Mitzvah, but it's, let's say you think to yourself it's a Shlamim, you continue bringing all the things that come together to Asham Mitzvah, the oil and the flour. So he says, you brought the Asham Mitzvah, but you didn't have the right kavana, or you didn't put the blood on the thumb and on the big finger. It goes in the mizbeach, and you have to continue bringing the nesachim, the mincha. So you see that you have to continue, just like Rabbi Yochanan said, you have to continue bringing what you bring. You just have to bring another one instead of it. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day and a good vach.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDY.com.